Next up, we're happy to welcome the CEO of Ultimovacs, Carlos de Sousa. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Ultimovacs. We are a biotech company located in Oslo, Norway, and also we're the research team located in Uppsala, Sweden. And we are listed in the Oslo Stock Exchange. So what is Ultimovacs? We are developing next generation universal cancer vaccines, including our lead compound, UV1, that is applicable at all stages of cancer. We are now uniquely positioned with 4 phase 2 combination trials, including 4 out of the top 5 checkpoint inhibitors, and we'll be enrolling more than 500 patients. We are also being evaluated in a phase 1/2 trial in advanced malignant melanoma patients in combination with the standard of care pembrolizumab. And we are very excited that we're going to present this data at ASCO, and I can give you a little bit of the top results from this study. These key results from the first study cohort of 20 patients after a 21-month follow-up show that UV1 in combination with pembrolizumab reaches 60% objective response rate, and most notoriously, a complete response of 30%. And I will detail all this. It also shows that it's safe and well tolerated when used in combination with pembrolizumab, and helps shrink the melanoma tumors more than just the monotherapy, and helps patients also in melanoma to live longer versus pembrolizumab as monotherapy. We also have a platform, what we call the TET platform. Is a first-in-class and innovative cancer vaccine approach. And we have initiated clinical trials in February of this year. As you know, the big transformation in the treatment of cancer has happened in less than 10 years, really with the introduction of a class of drugs that are called the checkpoint inhibitors. These checkpoint inhibitors revolutionized the treatment of cancer and have been growing significantly, are now the biggest growth component of the treatment of cancer and also in all pharma, with a compound annual growth rate of 16%. So as you see, is selling now, just this class, approximately $30 billion and expected to reach close to 70 by 2026. And you see there the marketed checkpoint inhibitors. And as you see also in that smaller table, we are now in studies combining with pembrolizumab, Keytruda, with nivolumab, Opdivo, ipilimumab, Yervoy, and durvalumab, Imfinzi. And I will show you a little bit more details of these studies. So the big challenge for treating cancer is that the tumor cells that are just mutations of our normal cells are very smart cells and create defense mechanisms against the immune system. The checkpoint inhibitors revolutionized the treatment because they block these defense mechanisms from cancer cells. Unfortunately, a lot of patients, and in some indications, less than 20% of patients respond to this treatment. And because although you block these defenses, you need an immune system that is with immune cells in quantity and especially activated to enter the tumor and kill cancer cells. So that's what we do with UV1. We activate, educate, and expand the patient's immune cells so that they can enter the tumor and kill cancer cells. So we work in synergy with checkpoint inhibitors. UV1 is a new generation universal cancer vaccine with very strong benefits. It's easy of clinical use, 8 intradermal injections, so no need for complex hospital infrastructures. It's also ready to be administered when needed, what we call off the shelf, and can be used in the general population without any pre-screening. It's also easily manufactured, has a long shelf life, and a low unit cost. So UV1 works by directing the immune system towards cells expressing telomerase. And telomerase is present in 85 to 90% of the cancer cells, independent of the tumor type. So telomerase is essential for the unlimited cancer cell growth and mortality, and so is an ideal antigen targeting immunotherapy. What we do basically with UV1, with our long peptides, is that we activate a specific group of immune cells, the CD4 helper T lymphocytes, And these type of cells are the maestros of the body immune response. You see here our broad and ambitious development pipeline. As I mentioned, we'll have more than 500 patients in our phase 2 trials. The first 3 top trials are already now, in 5-year follow-up for survival. And that's shown a very good safety and very encouraging signals of efficacy. Then we have approved by the FDA to enroll patients in the US in this malignant melanoma study that you see there that we are going to present now at ASCO. And ASCO is the biggest medical conference for cancer, normally having more than 400 physicians and professionals in the healthcare getting together in Chicago, and this year is a virtual conference. And you see there then our 4 phase 2 studies, in 2 of them having collaborations with 2 of the big pharmaceutical companies, Bristol Myers Squibb and AstraZeneca, and also our platform, TED platform, with the prostate cancer study that we have initiated phase 1 study. But let me give you now a little bit more details of the very exciting and really transformational data of the study that we are presenting at ASCO. So this study combines UV1 plus pembrolizumab. Pembrolizumab is one of the standards of care in the treatment of these type of patients. And these are patients with advanced malignant melanoma. It's running all in the US. We finished enrollment of the 30 patients, was completed already August last year. And we are presenting now at ASCO the first 20 patients. The first primary point is safety, but also we look at efficacy parameters. The first thing very important is that we've shown that UV1 is safe and well tolerated. And this is of particular importance, as you know, in treating cancer patients that normally have to do multiple combinations and are not in the best health status. So we've shown a very good safety profile. Basically, the safety profile is what the patients will get with pembrolizumab we used alone. And the exception, of course, is for injection site reactions, which are related to the UV1 vaccine. So all of the major adverse events reported are what is classified as grade 1 and grade 2, that is the lower grade of adverse events. But moving to the most exciting part, it is the efficacy results. So as I mentioned, all patients have been observed a minimum of 18 months, and the median observation time is 21 months as of early May. Responses are measured by, imaging exams. And we have shown that in 6 out of 20 patients, 30%, you observe a complete response. This means that the tumor disappeared in these image observations. Another 30%, 6 out of 20 patients, had a partial response, so it means that the tumor masses that were observed reduced in size. Together, this gives an objective response rate of 60%. One patient also had stable disease, so the tumor masses didn't change, and 7 of the patients had a progressive disease. At 18 months, 80% of the patients were still alive. And this is the data that will be presented, as I mentioned, at ASCO. But how does this compare with the standard of care pembrolizumab? You see there in this graph that when we look at all of the patients that responded, as I mentioned, the objective response rate, pembrolizumab in their approval study with 279 patients, similar group of patients as in the study, about 33% of the patients had a reduction of the mass size or a complete response, while we have pretty much twice of that percentage, 60%. Even more important is when you look at the patients that really haven't then no tumor detected. In this approval study, with pembrolizumab, they had 5% of patients that had a complete response, while we moved to 30% when we add UV1 to pembrolizumab. So these results are quite impressive. Of course, they need to be confirmed in our extensive phase 2 trial, but are already very, very positive, very strong data. Also, as I mentioned, we can see there that at 18 months, we had 80% of the patients still alive versus 62% in pembrolizumab alone. And also what we call the median progression-free survival means how, the middle patient before progressing we are reached almost 19 months, and pembrolizumab in their approval trial at 5.5 months. So very important data that has been really raising a lot of interest from the medical community. So what are the next steps in advanced malignant melanoma? As I mentioned, we present a poster and will be made public on June 4th. Then in the fourth quarter this year, we will have then the results in the 30 patients, 2-year follow-up of this cohort, and 1-year follow-up of the additional 10 patients. So very important period of time for data. And we also have initiated one of the phase 2 studies, the initial study, in 154 patients in the US, UK, Belgium, and Norway, that studies UV1 in combination with nivolumab and ipilimumab versus nivolumab, ipilimumab alone. And nivolumab and ipilimumab are the other standard of care of treatment in these type of patients. But also part of our strategy to really show that UV1 can be used in a multitude of cancer types and in combinations with different compounds. We have an additional 3 phase 2 studies running. The NIPU study is a collaboration with Oslo University Hospital Network and with Bristol Myers Squibb, 118 patients in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Spain, and Australia. And we have started enrolling patients in June of last year. The DOVAX study, very important study in collaboration with AstraZeneca and the Nordic Society of Gynecological Oncology, a big study with 184 patients in more than 10 European countries, and also introducing a new class of drugs, olaparib, that is PARP inhibitor, part of the strategy of really maximizing the usage and the combinations of UV1. In the FOCUS study, our 4th phase 2 study, in a very tough indication, head and neck cancer, in combination with pembrolizumab versus pembrolizumab alone. As I mentioned, pembrolizumab alone in this indication, only about 20% of the patients respond. In addition to this ambitious phase 2 program with UV1, as I mentioned, we have initiated clinical trial with our first product coming out of our TET technology. It's a very innovative and new class where we combine the antigen and the adjuvant in the same molecule. This first study running in the Oslo University Hospital is in patients with prostate cancer, and we are going to have some initial indication of safety also in the fourth quarter. So, in summary, and as key takeaways, we are developing universal vaccine technologies with UV1 and TET that are broadly applicable in different cancer types and in different therapeutic combinations. We have shown an excellent safety and efficacy data that we have the honor of presenting at ASCO in the melanoma study in combination with pembrolizumab. Our broad and ambitious phase 2 development program will have 4 trials, will enrolling more than 500 patients. We're also very excited to have initiated the first study with a TET platform that is a first-in-class and innovative cancer vaccine approach. We have validation through collaborations with top oncology specialist groups and 2 of the large pharmas. We have an experienced team, a very strong shareholder base, and a good cash position. At the end of the first quarter, we have approximately 400 million Norwegian krone, what funds the company to the first half of 2023. And with this slide, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer now the questions, and of course, having the opportunity to interact with you during the summit.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation, Carlos. I'd like to ask you a few questions, and I'd like to start off by asking, do you consider UV1 to be a unique mode of action? And if so, how is it unique compared to other types of immunotherapy?
Well, we are part of a group that is, what we call primers or activators. And here we have a very specific mode of action. Of course, there are other companies working in different mechanisms, but we think that we have quite a very competitive profile. For instance, you have companies that are working in personalized vaccines. Then they need to be able to do biopsy of the tumor, select the neoantigens. So it's a patient by patient. So, very important for the patients, but, not a little bit more challenging in terms of the cost and the using a very big number of patients. Then we have, for instance, the oncolytic virus that require also that you are able to access the tumor because they are used by injecting the tumor. So all these approaches will be used, and hopefully several of them will make it to the market because cancer patients need as many alternatives as possible. We are not saying that we'll be able to treat 100% of the patients, not at all. But we think that with our universal approach and the fact that 85 to 90% of the cancer types, regarding which one will express telomerase, we think that the ease of use, the low cost, and the fact that it's an off-the-shelf product, put together with the strong safety and efficacy data that we are showing, make UV1 very competitive in this field. And of course, we are not competing with the big pharma. We are going to be used with the big classes of drugs, as I showed the checkpoint inhibitors.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. And along those same lines, I also wanted to ask you, what is the competitive landscape for Ultimovacs?
So I think that, part of it, I addressed in the previous answer, but I think, for us, the competitive landscape are the primers, that I highlighted to you. So in terms of telomerase, the same approach that we use, very few companies, quite honestly, are working in that field, and we are the most advanced, and we have patents. So really, our companies working with the other approaches, the personalized vaccines, oncolytic virus, that have pluses, but also minus. So we think we are quite competitive there. And then other classes in this field, the checkpoint inhibitors will be used in combination, CTLA-4s and LAG-3s, other approaches we can also be used in combination. So I think we have a broad open field for really the use of UV1 in combination with different classes of drugs.
Yeah, okay. And well, I wanted to skip through the ASCO presentation that you're going to give in June regarding the quite impressive phase 1 data in the malignant melanoma patients. But more specifically, what would you say are the overall implications in the long term of this data?
Well, I think that the key really takeaway from this is that we can show now that when we add UV1 to the standard of care, in this case pembrolizumab, one of the checkpoint inhibitors, as a matter of fact, the one with the more approved indications, we clearly see a big benefit by adding UV1. So this, in a way, starts showing the proof of the mechanism of how we are in this synergy between UV1 and the checkpoint inhibitors here, namely with pembrolizumab. So this is, of course, gives us more encouraging results and encourage confidence to really for our very broad phase 2 program. So, of course, these are 20 patients, 30 that will be at the end of this year, small samples, but this is the normal in the stage of development. But of course, it's very encouraging to see these type of results and give us more confidence, for our phase 2 program.
Mm-hmm. And well, just to finish off, what would you say are the main milestones that Ultimovacs is looking forward to this year?
Well, this year is going to continue to be very exciting, but the fourth quarter, we are going to have then the 2-year follow-up of these 20 patients, and also the first-year follow-up of the additional 10 patients that were just treated the same dose of UV1, but just with the standard dose of the adjuvant GM-CSF. So, this will give us more data, particularly in the responses. So we are very excited to see that data, and also, of course, very importantly, on our platform, the TET platform, the first safety data from the phase 1 clinical trial in patients with prostate cancer. Of course, we will continue to look for opportunities to present this data at medical conferences and also to publish the data. So very exciting year.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Carlos, for answering the questions and for joining us from afar today. And we look forward to following Ultimovacs in the coming months.
Thank you, Michael, and look forward to the opportunity to continue our dialogue and to bring to potential investors and shareholders the news about Ultimovacs. Thank you.